from the chapter called Nowhere But Barstow in Prison. My mom and dad tried 15 times to have a girl baby, but ended up with 15 boys. We lived in a back house just off Crook Street, close to the dry river. A colorless, gray, 2 small-roomed, square cement shack. One tiny bathroom and closet, and another closet-sized impression of a kitchen. We bathed in an old, round tin tub in bath water that had been boiled. My dad worked for the Santa Fe Railroad. He and my mom came from Texarkana, Texas, and Texarkana, Arkansas. My dad left the South first, after he got into a conflict with a white man and punched him, which was a hanging event for a black man in the 1940s. So he left, traveling as far away as he could, landing in Barstow, California, in the Mojave Desert. There were hardly any fences on the river bottom where we lived. The soft sands rolled under and past Black's Bridge. Black's Bridge was all steel with bolts like small biscuits. When I lay under the bridge and a train ran across, I felt its power like a herd of elephants or bison stampeding across the sky. I watched the different shapes the train's shadows created on the white sands. Usually, I wore no shoes so that I could feel the sands of the river as my feet sunk into them. When I stepped out of our house on Crook Street, the purple and red clay mountains that surrounded me seemed to hold the whole world. I thought that up must be the only way out, so I had a habit of walking with my head held back, my eyes looking upward. I often ran into things, trees, doors, and fences. Still, I kept my head up. Somehow, I knew the world was limitless. I looked for hours into the sky while lying on a sand dune along the dry river bottom. I had a secret spot beside the river, and sometimes I would whistle, and semi-wild dogs would come running from all directions. When all the stars were out, I felt there was something hidden behind each one, as if the stars played hide-and-seek off and on like fireflies. Whenever I saw a rainbow strung across the sky from Bee Hill to the mountains, I thought of a series of brilliantly colored sidewalks, each one leading to a new adventure, each one having its own mystery. Other times, I saw the rainbow as a gateway into a dream, a new dimension, something everlasting. Life seemed to go on forever. The stars, like the semi-wild dogs, were loyal to themselves, and they always shone together, even on the darkest nights. We had domestic animals on our land: chickens, rabbits, pigeons, turkeys, greyhounds, and hogs. I could sit for hours, for an entire day sometimes, watching them. Other times I crossed the dry river, a half-mile or so from the back of our house, and watched the desert animals: roadrunners, lizards, rattlesnakes, jack and cottontail rabbits, and birds. Yet I always longed to see more exotic creatures, the kinds I had read about and had seen in picture books at school. I wanted to see pythons, elephants, bears, whales, and zebras. I wanted to see the large birds of prey, even vultures and buzzards. I wanted to see crocodiles and black panthers. I wanted to see the big cats, the lions and tigers that inhabited faraway places. So I was very excited about my first field trip. The Parks and Recreation Department ran a summer enrichment program to give children things to do, sporting events and excursions. One trip was to the San Diego Zoo, and I couldn't wait. The night before, I didn't get any sleep. I was up and dressed by 3 a.m., waiting. We were to embark on this adventure from the Catholic school. Everyone gathered around the huge yellow school buses as we loaded onto them. I ran to get a window seat so I could view the passing land as we traveled. I sat looking out of the window, thinking of all the animals I would get to see. Then another boy came and sat beside me. I wanted to be alone, in a seat to myself, to observe. So when the kid would not leave, I beat him up. Nothing bloody or long. I was immediately kicked off the bus by one of the adults. As I stood there watching the yellow vehicles pull away from the sidewalk one by one, a part of my heart pulled away with each bus. My heart dropped like a sparrow that had been shot. I sat down on the curb in the early morning sunshine and watched the wagons full of smiling children go on their way. I would have preferred a paddling instead of missing this field trip. At least my mom and dad were not around, so they did not know the reason I was bounced off the bus. For the home beating stung far worse than the paddlings I got at school. Sometimes my dad caught me with the extension cord in the bathtub. An extension cord on a wet, naked body stings like a whip. Dogs, cats, coyotes, and other howlers would have envied how loudly I bellowed. When the beating was over, my skin was afire, puffed up in places, as though lashed with a whip. Other times, when I thought I had gotten away with something, I lay sleeping in bed, on the floor, or on the couch, only to be awakened by a water hose, tree branch, or extension cord. The only safe place was my spot under the house, a place only dogs, snakes, and spiders lived. I never went that far under, and I had to come out for food, school, church, and even, eventually, the beating. Unlike the beatings at school, though, my mom and dad beat me for a reason when I knew myself that I had done something wrong or had broken a family rule or sin. I am sure my parents based their whippings on the Bible, some verse about sparing the rod. Although I had no concept of God, Jesus, or sin, I understood these whippings for stealing, staying out late, or sneaking out of church service. People at school never spoke with me about why they paddled or slapped me. No one at school ever showed me they cared, whereas after a beating at home, my mom was still there, breakfast and dinner still served. My mom never failed to accept me no matter what law of society I had broken. When I got older and the cops took me to the police station, my mom would pick me up as soon as she could, or she'd have the cops drop me off at home. Sure, I would get another whipping for truancy or shoplifting or whatever I'd done, but my mom and dad left no doubt that I was part of a family.